All right. I guess we can give everyone a few seconds to sort of join in before we kind of get started. I'm sure everyone's really keenly logging in, so hello. All right. We'll give it just about 1 minute. We'll give it to the 1 minute mark, and then I think we can get started. Perfect. So yeah. Hi to anyone who's already joined 30 seconds. It's great to see the enthusiasm. All right. I'm excited. It's exciting to know that we're about to get a great presentation.
Yeah, it's really good to see people joining in.
Yeah. All right, I think we can start now. I think people have been able to join. So hello, everyone who has joined. I'm Alice Stewart. I'm the Partnerships Coordinator at Theirworld, as well as the Events and Comms Liaison for the Innovation Team, and I'll be moderating this event. And now, before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone that captioning is available during this if you click the CC button at the bottom of the screen. Additionally, also please remember that this is a Q&A, so if you have any questions now or during the event, please make sure to submit them to the chat box and we'll get around to answering all of them at the end of the event. And now I'm really excited to introduce you to our presenter for this event, Angela Solomon. So Angela is a consultant at Theirworld, as well as the lead on the innovation team and an overall amazing person. And she'll be sharing some great information about the Education Innovation Awards with us and answering any questions you may have. So hello, Angela.
Hi, Alice. Oh, great to be here. Thank you very much for organising this and for moderating today.
I'm so excited. I'm really keen to see what you have to present with us. And Angela has a really great presentation that I think we're just going to jump right into. So I will set that up. The sort of endless. And everyone should be able to see that. Angela, can you see the slideshow?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you. Great. That's great. Okay, shall I take it away?
Yeah, go ahead.
So hello, everybody, and thank you very, very much for being here. We're going to run through a quick presentation that covers quite a lot of the questions that have been asked so far about the programme, and then we'll have time for live questions and additional questions that might come up. So welcome to the Theirworld Education Innovation Awards. In this presentation, we will show you a quick animation, which gives a little feel for the awards. I'll tell you a little bit about Theirworld, who we are, what's the team behind the awards and why are we doing them, and then give you a bit of background information about what the awards are, who's eligible, what's the timeline, mostly for this year, and then we'll talk through the programme and exactly how award winners will benefit from this scheme. And then we'll have time for questions and answers, which we're really looking forward to. So definitely encourage you throughout this presentation. If you have questions, please put them into the chat. We'll be really happy to answer as many as we can in the time we have today. So we'll start with a very brief animation, which should play about now. There we go. Beautiful. Inspiring.
I love that animation. It's so fun.
And if you're new to working with Theirworld or engaging with Theirworld, then just a quick word about who we are. So Theirworld is a global children's charity, and our vision is to end the global education crisis and unleash the potential of the next generation. That means we have a lot in common with many of the people who are watching this. Our mission is to ensure that every child has the best start in life, a safe place to learn, and skills for the future. And we really don't think that's too much to ask. We'll talk a little bit more about what each of those 3 elements, the best start in life, a safe place to learn, and skills for the future actually means a little bit later in the presentation. So one reason why we're engaging in this program, and one reason why we're putting the word out that we'd like new and different organizations to come and work with us, is that we feel like we've got loads to offer. So Theirworld is an organization with 19 years of experience. Next year we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary. And our experience is really broad. We've been working in advocacy, in policy change, in innovation and project delivery and fundraising. We really want to share that expertise. Last year in 2021, we were running 21 projects in 7 different countries that were reaching 300,000 learners. And one really unusual and wonderful thing about Theirworld is that we have a sister NGO called the Global Business Coalition for Education, which is headquartered in the US, and which is building links with many fantastic businesses that want to do more to support education. That's exciting for our innovation program because it gives us an insight into and access to some of the top private sector innovations and people who are working on education innovation from the private sector as well. And we have a really fantastic and committed team who work on this program and who work on other programs as well, including project managers, including advocacy specialists and communicators, and a huge diverse range of talent in our organization we would love to share. And here is a snapshot of some of the members of this brilliant team. Here on this slide, you can see the innovation team. These are the people delivering the innovation awards and any other work related to them. There's me there, Angela. I'm the program lead. I work with Laura, Alice, Liz, and Paula Louise on a day-to-day basis on delivering different aspects of the program. The program is sponsored by Rob Doble, who's also the Director of Policy, Advocacy and Programs, and Justin Van Fleet, who's the President of Theirworld. It's a really fantastic cross-disciplinary team, and I think we're all very excited to be working on this program. I hope you'll have the chance to meet many of us as we go through. So a little bit about the awards themselves. What are the Education Innovation Awards? Well, they are a solution or a response to a very specific problem. After 20 years of working in education innovation, and based on a growing body of research, we've discovered that funding and scale up are 2 of the key challenges facing education organizations at the moment and for the next couple of years. So what you can see on this slide is the results of a survey that we conducted with 26 NGOs that we've worked with or have relationships with. And it's very clear that funding and scale up are the top 2 priorities. But in addition, there's a growing body of academic research that shows that obstacles to scale are preventing promising education innovations from reaching their full potential. And that's a really big problem because we need to see changes in how education works in order to meet Sustainable Development Goal number 4 and give every child the best chance. So on the next slide, hopefully, we will see our response to that challenge. The Theirworld Education Awards, which are based around 3 principles: innovation, investment, and inspiration. A little bit more about each one. Innovation is something we've been doing for a long time. We really value collaboration, and we want to work with change makers and people who are leading the charge and have exciting projects to fuel the change in education. So we're currently searching for those innovations. Investment, the program, the awards come with 5 £50,000 scale-ready grants. That is an investment that we make in the future of the innovation. They are intended for organisations who are actively working towards reaching marginalised communities, and we'll show you in more detail the eligibility criteria in just a second. And thirdly, inspiration. So while we really value and support education at all levels, we want to make sure that the organisations that work with us also benefit and learn through this award. So part of the award is targeted masterclasses and workshops and mentoring that will help education NGOs or non-profits to prepare to scale up their innovations. Now, the eligibility criteria basically break down into 5 different areas. And I'm going to briefly here, but we're also sharing, throughout this presentation, we're sharing the link to our website, which has the full details and which you can refer to in writing. So you have to be a registered non-profit or an NGO or a charity. Those three things are very similar, but different countries have different descriptions. So that's why we put all three things in. But essentially, we can't support for-profit organisations with these awards. We're looking for innovations that are at pilot stage. And we, in order to make that really clear, we've defined that as having at least 200 beneficiaries with 18 months existence or more. That means your innovation needs to have been started to be implemented. And you need to have some initial evidence of the scale-up potential of your idea. That's the second one. The third criterion is you need to be working in or planning to scale up to one of the 7 priority countries of Theirworld's projects. They are Greece, Kenya, Lebanon, Nigeria, Tanzania, Turkey, and Uganda. At least one of those countries either needs to be somewhere you're currently working or somewhere you plan to scale up to this year or in your scale-up plan. Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me. 1 second, I'm going to mute while I cough properly.
Don't worry. Well, it's always the worst when it's that sort of allergy season.
It's terrible, very dry air. You need to be focused on an issue under a Theirworld pillar, and those 3 pillars I will explain in a little bit more detail. So the best start in life, excuse me, is focused around early child education, a healthy birth, and quality and inclusive early child education. Secondly, a safe place to learn means looking out for vulnerable children and youth, especially children in emergencies and conflict. And skills for the future is about ensuring that all young people are ready to become engaged citizens who can participate meaningfully in society and the future of work. You can find those definitions again on the website. And finally, the 5th criterion is, of course, that your project, your innovation needs to be reaching marginalised learners, such as people in poverty and or refugee or displaced populations. Now, I hope that's clear, but if it's not, pop a question into the comments and we'll clarify everything. And if you need to have those in writing and refer to them later, of course, visit the website. Okay, so a quick glance at the timeline. Applications are open now and they close on the 11th of June. The eligibility form, which is a part of the application process, actually closes on the 10th of June. So if you're thinking of applying, make sure you've filled in that eligibility form by the 10th. We will then assess all applications, and around mid-June or early July at the latest, the finalists will be announced. We'll be selecting 10 finalists who will be invited to an introductory program of workshops that I'll say more about in a second. Following those workshops, 5 award winners will be selected. They will be then invited. Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. They will be then invited to attend a masterclass program starting in October this year, and then after a program of mentoring and masterclasses. Excuse me. There will then be a final workshop in May next year. We'll continue then to engage with and support the organisations beyond that. Alice, perhaps you could present the next slide for me while I just clear my throat.
Yeah, of course. So the next sort of bit that we'd like to break down into more detail is the judging process. And there'll be sort of 3 different stages of the judging process. So once you have submitted the application on the 11th of June, we will then send all of the eligible applications to a technical panel. And this technical panel will be made up of everyone from industry experts, scale-up experts, people who work in business and all different walks of life, who will be able to recommend 10 finalists, which will then be approved by our trustees. And then these 10 finalists, as the last timeline showed, will go through introductory classes to really work on their scale-up strategy, which they will then submit in August for our senior panel, who again will be a very highly skilled and highly qualified panel to review the 10 finalists' applications, and they will select the 5 winners, which they will then pass on to the trustees who will approve, and those 5 winners will be very excited and hopefully receive the £50,000 award and masterclasses, as well as one-to-one mentoring for the duration of September up until May 2022, when they will be presenting the achievements they've made over that period of time and how they've been able to grow as an organization to help secure future funding. Angela, is there anything else you would like to add, or can I?
Absolutely perfect job, and just another example of great teamwork. Thank you. I'm so sorry about that.
Right.
Thanks.
No, it's always the worst when you have a cold.
Well, education won't wait, you see, so I have to persevere. Thank you. So just a little bit about what happens for those 10 finalists. So if you make it to the finals, that obviously would be super, very much something to celebrate. You will then benefit from a period of a couple of weeks, actually, over which there'll be 6 introductory workshops that will help you create a scale-up plan. Now, the plan itself is based on lots of kind of inputs that we'll talk you through in the workshops, including how to identify the gaps in your plan, and how to go from where you are today to where you wish to be in 15 to 20 years, and then making that an actual plan that you can implement over the next 2 to 3 years. Everyone will have some time after the period of workshops to work on their plan and submit it along with an amended budget. And then on the basis of that, the final 5 award winners will be selected. For those who do win the award, that's 5 organisations. The combination of masterclasses, mentoring, and the Scale Readiness Grant begins around October. The masterclasses will be about one workshop per week, intensively diving deep into certain areas of scale-up. So we'll look at how well defined your innovation is, what work it might need, evidence gathering, the business model, and other elements, particularly also thinking about partnerships and how in your network and how that needs to be part of your scale-up strategy. In parallel with that, there'll be one-to-one mentoring from our scale-up expert and from a monitoring and evaluation specialist, as well as support from the Theirworld team. You'll have a dedicated project manager. And you'll also be receiving your £50,000 scale-up grant, so you can start to implement that throughout the programme and beyond. And as we've mentioned, that culminates in a final workshop and presentations in May next year, where you will be able to present your scale-up plan and your innovation to a community of education experts and potential funders. So I think that brings us to the end of our presentation. So now on to the most important part of this session. We'd love to see some of your questions and offer as many answers as we can. So Alice, over to you.
Great. Hi, so we've actually put out a call on Instagram yesterday to sort of see if anyone had any questions, and some people submitted some early, which was great. So the first question that we were asked, and I've printed them out, which was a nice way to sort of really commit to getting all of your answers, is that do the awards only focus on education, or if it's an initiative that's focusing on another issue, but it helps promote education, like a sanitation initiative, would that be eligible or something that Theirworld is looking for?
Great question, and a really important one. So the most important thing for us is it needs to fit under one of the 3 Theirworld pillars. So when you're thinking about whether you're eligible, have a look at those pillars in detail. Best start in life, a safe place to learn, and skills for the future. If you think there's a fit, even if your project has another dimension, then we recommend that you fill in the eligibility form. And if you pass the form, then you'll be invited to submit a full application. We are focused on education. We have an education remit, but sometimes the lines are a bit blurry and the projects might overlap. So we would recommend that you submit your application anyway, and it will be assessed by our judges. And if you're listed as a finalist, then you'll be contacted.
Great. I hope that helps. So yeah, it's great, and it's exciting. Can't wait to read all of your applications. So the next one, which people asked, and we had a few different people ask variations of this question, is why do we have this list of only 7 countries that are eligible? Greece, Kenya, Lebanon, Nigeria, Tanzania, Turkey, and Uganda. And why not other countries like Pakistan, for example?
Yeah, you're right. Quite a few people asked us this question. And it's a tricky one because, of course, we would love to throw the doors completely wide open and invite every wonderful project worldwide to be part of this. And indeed, we would like to hear from projects from any country. But in Scale Up, we're specifically focusing on how to scale up an education innovation. And in that context, it's so important to have the place we're working. Theirworld has experience of working in those 7 countries, and we have networks there, and we're able to then support you from an informed position. So for the moment, we're focusing on those 7 countries because that's where we have the most experience. All the same, if your innovation is focused on another country, then fill in the eligibility form anyway. That will give us a little bit of background information about your organization, and then we will be able to stay in touch with you. So when other opportunities arise, then we can get in contact.
Great. Well, that kind of the end of that question sort of answers the next one, which is a very straightforward question is, if I've watched this presentation and I've realized my project isn't eligible, should I still fill out the eligibility criteria? And that is
100% yes,
yes.
please do. Yeah, I mean, we really want to be available to support as many organizations as we can. At the moment, the program is focused on this very specific niche, but if you sign up via the eligibility form, we'll be able to stay in touch in the future. So definitely, please do fill it in, and then we'll be able to stay in contact.
Yeah, it's a great way to introduce yourself to Theirworld, and we can get to know you and put you on our radar. So definitely, please continue to apply. And on the flip side, we also have people asking if looking at the eligibility criteria, what if my project exceeds the criteria? Should I still apply? And another straightforward question.
Well, I mean, Alice knows the answer already, which is, of course, yes, you're very welcome to apply. So we mentioned that the criteria are at least 200 beneficiaries having been in existence for at least 18 months. We also ask that organizations have implemented their innovation, at least as a pilot, in at least 2 different contexts. But that doesn't need to stop you. If you've been in more contexts, have more beneficiaries or more experience, we are looking for innovations at this kind of pilot stage. So we're looking for a consistent cohort so that everyone can learn from each other and understand things at the same stage. But at the same time, like that stage looks different for different organizations. So do definitely fill in the forms, even if you exceed those numbers. We'd be very, very happy to see your application.
Great. I hope that helps. And then someone has also asked on Instagram what can my team spend the £50,000 on? Sort of what are the limitations of that, and kind of how free are we just to choose what we spend that on?
So the Scale Readiness Grant is specifically for activities relating to preparing for scale up. And those are different for each different type of innovation. So it's up to you to specify. And when you submit your application form, you are invited to put a budget together, which shows roughly how you would spend this 50K. It can't be used to implement your innovation only, meaning you need to have funding to keep going with what you're already doing independently of this scale-up grant. But it can be used for project activities if they're related to improving or evolving or growing the scope of the pilot. One example we've also seen is that people might want to remove senior staff from frontline delivery by hiring people to continue the delivery while more senior staff focus on scale-up plans. We've also seen that a significant need for more evidence generation and monitoring and evaluation, and we expect you to set aside a proportion of that £50,000 for that type of activity. So there is some flexibility, but the guiding principle is focus on those activities that you'll need to do to prepare for scale. And I should also note that we ask you to submit a budget in your application. But then if you're selected as a finalist, you'll be able to refine and update that budget. So perhaps you learn something in the workshops that makes you think, oh, hang on, actually, we need a budget for this. You can then refine that budget before it's submitted to the final judging panel.
Great. That's a great answer. You essentially, whatever you see fit, it's great how there's such a flexibility in this Scale Ready grant. Another thing that people have asked, and we've had this question a few times, is does my organization have to be registered in the country we're delivering our project in?
Yeah, this gets a little bit technical. It's a really important clarification. So we will ask for proof that you are legally allowed to deliver your activities in the country where you're focused, and any other countries that you're operating in. Now, in some countries, you are required to register an entity or have a formal partnership with another organization or something like that. So we'll look at each different innovation related to the context where it's being delivered. But essentially, if the country that you work in doesn't the that's fine by us. So you could be headquartered in another country. Let's say you're headquartered in Morocco, but you're working in, let's say, Nigeria. If you're not required to have a legally registered entity in Nigeria, then that is fine. But we will ask to see evidence that you are able to operate within the legal parameters of that context.
Great. And we also have a question that was asked, and we did sort of go into this. I briefly touched on this when I was going over the review set timeline, but how is the judging panel chosen? Kind of how do we put together a judging panel, and how have we kind of worked on nominating those people?
Well, it's great that people are so interested in this process. And since this is a pilot year for us, it's the first time we're running these awards, we've had to really think through each step of the process and design it very consciously. In fact, Alice and other team members, we've all been really involved in how to design this, and some external voices as well. For the judging panel, so there are two judging panels, as Alice has set out. The first one is a technical panel, which is made up of people who have expertise in education and or scale up, and also members of the Theirworld team, who of course come from an education perspective as well. That is compiled in order to offer a diverse understanding across the three pillars of Theirworld's work, along with other contexts like innovation and potentially scale up. It's a balance between internal Theirworld staff and external staff, and we've looked also to create a geographical balance so that there are representatives and a diversity of voices from different contexts. And very much the same applies to the senior panel, which will assess the 10 finalist scale-up plans and make recommendations to our trustees of who should be the final winners. That panel will be senior level officials or different people who are able to give insightful feedback to the finalists based on their innovations and their scale-up plans. And those people will either be from education, working in the education sector, or from industry, from innovation, and have something very specific to add around giving comments and feedback at that level.
Great. And this kind of plays into another question that we had, which is, how does Theirworld decide the finalists and award winners? And that is with this highly technical, skilled judging panels, and with a really sort of thoughtful process. I don't know, Angela, if there's anything you wanted to add to that, but your last answer definitely sort of covers that generally. But is there anything you'd like to add on how Theirworld is choosing the award winners and finalists?
The criteria are all published, so you can very much see what's important in the selection. The first panel will be assessing the match with the criteria and how well different organisations match the criteria, and we'll be scoring them against those criteria. The second panel will be looking at the elements in the scale-up plans themselves. So they'll be judging how well thought through the scale-up plan is, how comprehensive, how realistic, and also how prepared the team seems to be to implement on that plan.
Great. Additionally, we have one other question, which we're going to wrap up quite soon, which is, what does Theirworld actually expect of the award winners when, organizations are applying? They kind of want a better picture of what do they have to provide throughout the award. Yes,
well, I mean, that's a really good question, in the sense that Theirworld is providing a lot of opportunities, we hope, through the awards. And in exchange, we would love for all of the organisations who are selected to really commit to getting the most out of the programme. So really make sure that you get as much value as you can from the workshops, mentoring, and from the Scale Readiness Grant. There are certain obligations, like we need to have reports on the spending of that grant and the effectiveness, and we'll be asking periodically for feedback and inputs onto how your innovation is growing and how much you've learned from the programme. And one other important thing that we would really like to ask from our award winners is to keep sharing stories and photographs and video of their innovations in action, so that we can offer visibility to a wider community of Theirworld supporters, so that they can stand the great work that you're doing as well. So participating with us in communications opportunities is really important, and we think really, really great also for the organisations. Maybe you want to add something there, Alice, since that's part of your work.
No, that's definitely something that I know in my work with the team. I really am excited to see all the stories that people will share and bring forward and that we can include in our newsletter, on our website, and really make sure that the issue you're working on, we can get it to our entire wide, around global network of supporters. And that's just a really exciting part of the award, in my opinion. And now, before we wrap up, there's 2 more questions, but if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to comment them and we can try and get to them. But in the meantime, there was one question that's, how will Theirworld long-term help my innovation secure future funding?
Yeah, so we mentioned that funding is a really important challenge for lots of education innovators. And we very much don't just see our intervention here as just a £50,000 grant and a scale-up program. We really want to remain in contact and look at co-funding opportunities in the future. So we will, we'll go into more details as we go through the program. But very much we want to help you to get access to potential funders and look at how we could co-fund things together through Theirworld. So we will be your partner in your next fundraising steps. And one of the key things is we're going to offer lots of visibility through the final presentations and workshop, and also through the storytelling that we just mentioned, as well as really helping you to have a really good basis for fundraising through the outputs from the workshops and your scale-up plan. But definitely, this program is not the end of the story for the award winners, maybe even for the finalists. So we really want to be able to walk side by side in the future.
Great. And one final question, I think, is if your question wasn't answered today or wasn't answered in the presentation, where can you go and who can you contact?
Yay! So we are the faces, well, the team that you saw on the earlier slide, and Alice and I, we're the faces of this faceless, or of the email address that you can use to contact us. So you can contact us via innovation@theirworld.org, which is the email address to contact us in the team, and we'll get back to you if there's a question that hasn't been answered. But we should say the website has a lot of FAQs, and some of these questions are covered there. So please first check the FAQs, and then if you're still not sure, then contact us at innovation@theirworld.org.
Great. Well, I think that's it for questions, and we're going to start to wrap up. And it's been really great talking to you, Angela, and it's been really exciting reading some of the comments and seeing how excited everyone is to have applied. So I'm glad that we were able to answer questions and hopefully clarify anything that was unsure. Please make sure to complete the eligibility criteria. It takes less than 5 minutes. You won't regret it. It's a really great way to introduce yourselves. So follow Theirworld on all of our socials, subscribe to our newsletter, and get in touch with us if you have any questions, because we're really excited to hear from you and hopefully, find 10 really amazing finalists and 5 incredible award winners. Angela, is there anything else that you'd like to add? Or
I want to say a huge thank you, Alice, for hosting this, and thank you to everybody who submitted questions. Really excited to see the applications and wishing everybody the best of luck.
Thank you. And thank you, Angela, for your presentation. And thank you for everyone who joined. It's been great kind of getting to meet you all. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.